The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Kate, and I'm the Executive Director of Destination Imagination Colorado. And I thank you all for being in our webinar this evening. We have about half the people here that are going to be here, so people are going to be joining in as we move forward. But I want to start on time so that we can all get back to our families and our DI teams and everything. Um, a couple of logistics. I am recording this webinar, so it will be available to rehear or to pass along. And then if you have any questions during the webinar, can you please just type in the question box in your control panel the questions that you have, and I will answer them. I'm assuming that most of you are first time team managers. If you have a first time team manager, click the hand raise button on your control panel. Okay, great. So it looks like most of you are new, which is great. That's what this is for. And if you have any questions about, if you have any questions about the webinar, hold on, you should find a hand. Anyway, if you have any questions about getting ready for tournament or anything else, just by all means, ask a question and we will get back to you. We are really excited to have you guys as team managers. Being a team manager is the hardest job there is in Destination Imagination. And I have been a team manager myself. I was a team manager for 7 years with one son and about 5 with another son. And my kids are still pretty young, so it hasn't been that long since I've been on the appraising tournament side of the tournament. So anyway, ask questions. Let me know what you think and let me know how your team is doing, or if you have any questions that don't have anything to do with getting ready for the tournament. So great. Well, we're about to start tournament season. We have 2 this weekend. We have Denver and Jeffco this weekend. And then we'll be following up with the other 8 regional challenges we have here in Colorado. And I just want you guys to know that this should be a lot of fun. This is the celebration evaluation part of the creative process. And so I want you guys to have fun with it and make sure your teams have a really fun day. So prepare your students for the excitement that they're going to have. Make sure they're prepared with all these. We're going to talk about all the things that you need to do to prepare. But what I'd like you to do in this week or two before your tournament is just to remind them how far they have come and how much they have learned. Do you remember back in September, October, or if you started in January, when your teams didn't even know how they were going to solve the challenge? And now they probably have a solution. They've probably overcome some teamwork issues. They've probably learned some skills along the way. So remind them just how far they've come. And if your solution isn't as perfect as you wish it were, that is the truth for everybody that's competing at the regional tournament. And just remember how far they've come and how much they've learned. What I usually did is the week before competition, I would either meet them after school and bring them ice cream, or sit with them in the cafeteria during lunch and just tell them how proud I was of each one of them and what I thought of their solution and what I thought about their teamwork. And not any solutions to their team, but just making sure that they knew that I was really proud of their accomplishments. Doing DI is hard, as you all probably have found out. And so let's make sure we rejoice in what the kids have accomplished. All right. One of the things that you want to do to minimize your stress is to arrive at school at least 1 hour before your performance time. Figure out where you're going in the building, figure out where you're parking, where you're going to drop off your props. Your parents can unload the props at the loading dock. I know they have a loading dock in some of the schools. I don't know about others, but they have places where you can pull up so you're closer to the building. Um, and just remember, even if the parents break the props or the costumes or the machines, that the students are still the ones that have to fix them. So make sure that you arrive early enough so you can get things out of the car. Remember, I'm imagining that most of your scenery and props and accoutrements for your presentation are probably a little bit flimsy, whether they're made out of cardboard or wood or PVC pipe. They might not be as securely attached as you may hope. So just be careful when you are transporting them to take very good care of them and leave yourself plenty of time. If you have a troublesome piece that always breaks or whatever, make sure you have time to fix that. You don't want to be rushed. And remember, the parents cannot fix them in any way. When you get to a tournament, there's going to be lots to look at. There's going to be teams from 6 other challenges unloading their cars. There's going to be kids that have already performed, kids that are in the prep area, kids that are performing, kids that are all finished and, are just excited and having a snack or whatever. So take it all in when you get in there, but keep your kids' expectations under control. So look at other teams' props. Look at them. Say, hey, what did they make that out of? Or doesn't that look cool? Well, how do you think they made that? Or, try to look at when you're walking around. Try to look at things and make sure that the kids are also learning and noticing other things that they could have used to make props and scenery. But don't get your kids get nervous. They don't know what's a scored element. So let's say a huge grandfather clock is carried into the performance area, and your kids are all like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing, that's so much better than anything we've done. Remind them they don't know what level that prop is in. They don't know what if it's even a scored element, and they don't even know what part of the performance it's in. So let's say this big, huge grandfather clock is a part of the structure challenge, but the structure doesn't hold any weight. Okay. So it's a very big, beautiful clock, but that doesn't mean that your team looking at it can't do better than that team. So while it's super exciting to look at everything that's going on, which it is, I mean, your kids are going to learn a lot when they go to tournament. Just make sure that you put it in perspective. Hey, we don't know how old they are. We don't know what their scored elements are. We don't know what challenge they're in, all that. Some other things to do during the tournament is support your school. Make sure you view your other team's performances. And the other thing that you can do is watch performances in your challenge. Your kids know their challenge extremely well. So if they're doing the Laugh Art Loud challenge, they might sit and like to watch other teams. And as long as they are polite and thoughtful, they are more than welcome to watch it and think about like, well, how did they do their caption contraption, and where was their moment in time, and all that stuff. So watch other teams' performances, especially if you have a chance to watch a level above yours, if you're a middle level or a secondary level team. And I think your team will learn a lot. All right. So what do you want to bring with you to tournament? Well, depending on your tournament schedule, you might be there for a good part of the day. Some tournaments that might be a little bit smaller usually have their team challenge first, and then about an hour to a 90-minute break, and then the instant challenge. If that time falls right over a lunch period, you might want to pack a lunch. Most there is food at most regional tournaments, but you may also want to, if you want to have a parent pack a cooler or bring snacks or whatever they need to do. Make sure that you, as the team manager, tell the parent bringing the snacks or the lunch what you want. My son, who is now a senior in high school this year, his first year as a rising star, he was in first grade, and the team person in charge of food gave him a Mountain Dew. Well, my son had never had caffeine before, and he got really, really sick and a huge headache. So after that, I made sure of a couple of things. Number one is that I always said what I wanted in the snack box, healthy snacks, and so that their blood sugar remained sort of calm until after both events are done. And I also then always carried children's Advil and children's Tylenol because that first year when I was a brand new team manager, I did not have a single pain medication in my bag. Make sure your team parents know, hey, is it okay if I give your son, daughter Advil or Tylenol? Um, and they're probably one of the parents will be around, but make sure you have it because I mean, the last thing that you want to do is be having a kid suffer a headache um, for yours and be not feeling well for their instant challenge. Um, you also want to make sure you bring band-aids. You never know if you are hammering something um, and a nail goes through your finger, or that way it probably wouldn't happen, but maybe you got a splinter from the wood. You want to make sure you have band-aids and antiseptic and make sure that the parents know what you're doing. And drink a ton of water. um, everyone in your team is going to be a little bit have adrenaline going on through uh, the day because you're nervous, you're excited, you're rushing around, you want a good performance, you're doing a lot of walking. So just have plenty of water. Make sure every child brings a water bottle um, with them. They just need to drink, drink, drink. All right. You also want to bring a repair kit. So, one of the things you want to do the week or two before your tournament is you want to ask your students, hey, what usually breaks? What do we need to fix it? How are we going to fix it at tournament? And try to get them to brainstorm everything that they need in their repair kit. They may need extra duct tape. They may need extra, I don't know, wire. They may need an extra battery or something. Whatever they feel like they need. And you guys have done enough with your challenge by this time that you know you know the elements that fall apart. And so make sure that you're very prepared for the kids to have what they need. Do you need a hammer? Do you need nails? Do you need screws? Do you need duct tape? Do you need wiring? Do whatever you need, try to get the kids to brainstorm it, make a list, and get the repair kit ready so you can have that with you at tournament. You want to have all your paperwork ready, and we'll go over that in a moment. You want to have a checklist ready. So this is again something that your kids can do the last 2 weeks or so before their tournament and go through, what do we need to bring? We need to bring the backdrop. We need to bring Joey's costume. Oh, we need to bring the containers. Oh, we need to bring the structure. Whatever all the things are, the team sign, all those things that you need to bring, you should have a list and make sure that the kids go through the checklist when you guys are loading up your car, so that you make sure that you bring everything from Joey's costume to the structure to the volcano if you're bringing a volcano. Who knows? You never know what you're going to need at a DI tournament. You just might need a volcano. And then you may want to bring some IC supplies just for the kids to do some warm up activities and get their brains engaged before you go into IC. Now, at the beginning of this slide, I did say that some tournaments start you off at your central challenge, and then an hour and a half later, go to your instant challenge. That is not always the case. Sometimes your instant challenge goes first. Sometimes your central challenge goes first. Sometimes you have an hour and a half. Sometimes you have two. So don't plan your day to go in and out and be fast, because you just never know how the tournament day is going to go. For any of you that advance to state, we try to schedule people about 2 to 3 hours apart, because we're getting in about 300 teams into the schedule. So it's a day where, it's a full day. Um, there you go. So that's sort of what to bring. When you go to your tournament, you want to make sure you have 5 copies of your challenge paperwork. When you go to destinationimagination.org, and it loads slowly on your computer. I can't even say my kids are home using the bandwidth, because they're not. Bum, 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 bum. Come on. Something's not right. All right. Well, if you go to destinationimagination.org, hopefully it will load up eventually. And you go to the resource area, and you sign into the resource area using your team number and email. You will be able to download tournament data forms that are PDFs that you can type in. Has anybody seen those? Raise your hand if you've used those interactive tournament data forms or know what I'm talking about. Oh, just a couple people. Okay, so hopefully that will load up and I can show you where those are, because they're really cool. Anyway, there's interactive tournament data forms on that website, and it's still loading. I don't know what's going on. They're really great to do because when you type them in, it's just so much easier for the appraisers to read. You want 1 copy of your expense report, and remember to check the rules of the road on what is how you fill out your expense report. You have items that can be garage sale items. For instance, if you went to Goodwill and bought some clothes to replicate the 1960s, you can use those as garage sale value. Most computer and classroom equipment is exempt from cost. And things like if you bought a whole roll of duct tape but you only used half of it, you only have to settle for half the retail value. So double check with the rules of the road about how you use your expense report, and you can always email me as well to figure that out. Okay. You then also want 2 copies of your Declaration of Independence. One is for the Central Challenge and one is for the Instant Challenge. All the team members that have contributed to the solution must be listed, even if they quit or don't show up to the tournament. And the team managers must sign this as well. All this can be found in the back of your challenge and on the resource site on the Destination Imagination. There it is. So you click here on resource area. Let's see if it's going to go faster. And then you sign in with your team manager login. Download challenges and materials. Program materials. And here you have your interactive Declaration of Independence, so you can type your you can type in your name like that. You can also find under program materials interactive expense report right here. You can write in shirts, whatever, and put in, we had 6 of those at garage sale value, so that was $12. So you can do that. You can program materials, go down a little bit, and you're going to see the technical challenge interactive data form, page 1, page 2, page 3. the scientific challenge, page 1, page 2, page 3, etc. So all of your tournament data forms can be found there, and you can type them in nicely, which is really nice. Um, all right, and then you need your team sign. One of the biggest reasons why we have the team sign, which is an unscored item, is because we need to make sure that we are telling one Corey team from the other, one Louisville elementary team from the other. Oftentimes, team regional directors will put all of the schools from the same team back to back to back, and the appraisers just want to make sure that they have the right number. So there you go. Okay. Um, so you want to have all that ready. It is okay, especially if you are a middle school, an elementary school manager. It is okay for you to type into the tournament data forms. Ask the kids what you should type, and you can dictate it. Middle level and secondary levels usually can do it by themselves, but if you're a elementary level team manager, please feel free, to help them type those forms. But the teams should make sure they're very clear and concise. If you have a team of middle level boys, please type them because their handwriting is terrible. So anyway, make sure they're very legible. Appraisers only generally have about 2 minutes to read the tournament data form, and they often don't read all of the tournament data form. So for instance, let's go back to here and let's go to page 2. I might be appraising the comic book story. So I might only read 2 and 3, while someone else doing the artifact might be reading number 4. So not every appraiser reads everything, but they read the necessary equipment that they need to help them answer their questions. Okay. If you are in the Fine Arts Challenge, you are required to have a colored copy of your piece of art. It was originally required to have 5. We would very much appreciate it if you have 5 colored copies of your artwork. It will just help the appraisers a ton. So once you have all of these attachments ready, you have your 5 copies of your challenge paperwork, your 5 pieces of your artwork, your expense report, your 2 declarations of independence. You want to copy them all over again. So you're actually going to have 10 copies of your challenge paperwork, 2 copies of your expense report, and 4 copies of your Declaration of Independence. And then you're going to copy it again. So you want 3 complete sets of your challenge paperwork. You want to have one of them in your possession. You want to have one in another reliable parent's possession, and you want to stick one in the glove box of your car. That way, if they get lost, spilled coffee on, they get thrown away in the hubbub of the day, you have another one to go to. So it's sort of a little bit redundant to have that many, but you'll never know if you're going to, you just want to make sure that you have them. Okay. When you're filling out these forms, you want to make sure you tell them what you want to tell them. The appraisers can only appraise what you tell them to appraise. So if you are asking them to appraise a costume, make sure that you're very specific and concise about the costume that they are appraising for your team choice element. They don't know who Susie is, so don't say Susie did it, but say, oh, look at the Blackbird costume, or our comic book panel begins at this time, or our artistic depiction of our extreme environment consists of. make sure that you're very just clear and concise. So make sure you also know what your two team choice elements are, and make sure you can tell the appraiser when they happen. All right. That's sort of all a little bit redundant. All right. Does anyone have any questions so far? I feel like I'm just talking into space. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, write them in your question box. Thanks, Sean. All right. So, what happens at your central challenge? And again, remember, sometimes um, sometimes you have your central challenge first, and sometimes you have your instant challenge first. Just depends. Remember that you've already gotten there an hour before because you want to get your props unloaded and all that. So now, oh, okay. Sorry. Before I do this, I had a question about individual clarifications. You should bring all the copies of your individual team clarifications, whether you need them or not, and bring them to the challenge. That is really important for the regional challenge masters to see them. So make sure you bring your team specific clarifications if you have them. Make sure you have them ready to go, and actually have a spare copy of those as well, because those aren't reproducible. Okay. So at your central challenge overview, you're going to check into the site 20 minutes before your performance time. A prep area appraiser will greet you, and they're going to go over a form with you. You, as the team manager, should take a step away from the team and let the team answer the prep area's person's questions. They're going to ask them, they're going to say, hey, I need to see your shoes. I want to show me some of the things that you did. They're going to ask them, hey, do you have chemicals, or do you have wiring? Or, they're going to ask them a series of questions. Number one, about the safety of their solution, and then anything that the appraiser needs to know. If you are in the tech challenge, your ops person may be brought to a different part of the room to talk about the setup for the ops panel. So, and the procedure that they have to go through. So this prep area time is really meant for your team to sort of be, number one, get excited about what they're about to do. If they're too excited, the prep area appraiser will try to get them focused, and to make sure all their questions are going to be answered. So the prep area appraiser is also looking for things like, let's say you're going to extremes, and your one element of your artistic depiction of your extreme environment is also a team choice element. Well, technically, that's against the rules because you can't score the same thing twice. So the prep area appraiser will then ask you, or ask your team, to come up with a different team choice element. That can happen. It doesn't often happen. But they're going to make sure, and they're always the friendliest people at the prep area. So just let your team answer the questions, and the prep area appraiser will be really nice to them and walk them through. They're going to ask them if they want photography and flashes and videography, and it's up to the kids to answer those questions. So just prepare the kids that that's going to happen, where they're going to be talked to by this prep area or a couple prep area appraisers. Once the prep area appraiser is finished, they will move into the launch area, and the parents can help move props into the launch area. And then the parents go sit down. Make sure the parents have all the cell phones, all the paraphernalia that your team doesn't need, and brings it to the stands. There will be a seat for the team managers or managers, and you guys get the front row seats, and your team will be introduced. So what happens at a tournament, and this just is sort of come catch as catch can, that the timekeeper announcer is going to say something like, "Welcome to Going to Extremes or Rising Stars, the circus." And they say, "Audience, are you ready?" And the audience will go, "Yeah." And they'll say, "Appraisers, are you ready?" And the appraisers usually say something like, oh, maybe if it's a circus, "Oh, let's get juggling," or something like a little cute little thing. And then they'll say, "Team, are you ready?" And some teams say, "Yes." And other teams have a routine. And some teams don't know what to say. And all that is fine. That's a non-scored element. So if your team has a little team cheer that they like to do, that's a good time to do it when the timekeeper announcer asks them if they're ready, or they can just say, "Yeah, we're ready." Once they say they're ready, then the time begins. Their 8 minutes or 5 minutes begin, or their 3 minutes if they are in the tech challenge, and um, then the whole thing starts. You do only have your time limit to do everything required in your challenge. So, for the most part, and I'm just going to generalize here instead of being challenge specific, for the most part, you have 5 minutes. When you have, or I'm sorry, 8 minutes, that includes your kids bringing stuff from the launch area onto the performance area and doing their whole skit. So, that does include the setup time. All right. What else was I going to say about? Oh, at your site, you have an 8 by 12 area minimum, but feel free. You can use the whole space of the room you're allowed. So if you're in Laugh Out Loud and you have the whole stage, you can use the whole stage. You don't have to use just the 8 by 12 minimum requirement. All right. I think I talked about this. The setup time is allowed after your team begins. Oh, so the team starts moving around and doing things, and um, oh my gosh, they're 7 years old, and the appraisers can't hear them. So the appraisers may get out of their chairs and move. They will probably be in the technical and the structure challenge. There's going to be people moving around to watch your structure and watch your containers. And then there may be story appraisers that move so they can hear the kids. So don't, your kids should not be intimidated if an appraiser comes and sits right down next to them. It's just so that they can hear the story. Um, then, oh, their 8 minutes is done and everyone claps and they're all happy and everyone is super excited. You, as a team manager, stay seated in your team manager chair. The appraisers are going to go talk to your kids about their challenge. They're going to ask them open ended questions like, "Tell me how you made that container." "Oh, what got you interested in this particular extreme environment?" "Oh, tell me what you learned about comic book panels." "Oh, how did you come up with your historical character for Pandemonium? Tell me more about your service project." So they're going to ask them to, and they're going to engage in a conversational style with your team to make sure that the appraisers know everything they need to know. Let's say that you are in the Laugh Out Loud challenge and your caption contraption has worked 1,000 times and it doesn't work when you get to um, it doesn't work when you get to your tournament. After the performance is over, your team can show them how it would have worked. You may not get all the points because I think you get some points for it actually working. I think that's a 0 or 10. But for technical design or theatrical design, I'm not sure which one it is for that challenge, but you could still get some points for that. So that can all happen. When the team is done and the appraisers have finished talking, all the parents should come down to the stage and take their team and their team's props away. Um, do not think that you can't, because we actually need to get on to the next team. And so the faster we can clean up in between, the more likely we are to stay on schedule. So please help them out. If you have a particularly messy solution, make sure you have, if you have water in your solution, for example, make sure you have a mop. If you have glitter in your solution, for example, make sure you have a broom. So you need to leave the performance area as clean as when you got there. So clean up after, and that usually only happens um, for crazy elements. That doesn't happen for every team. So you can see here, this is this is an example of how the traffic flow may work for your team. This is not always how it looks, but this is an example of how it might look. The team enters here at the top from the prep area and then goes to a launch line. And there's usually a person there telling them where to go. And then they go into the presentation area where the team performs. And here are the team manager chairs in the front row. And then there's usually some tables here where the appraisers do the scoring afterwards and where they might read their paperwork. And then the team will exit. So this is just one example of what it may look like. All right, does anybody have any questions about what the central challenge looks like? What's going to happen to your students once they get there? Okay, no questions about central challenge, okay. The other part of the day is your instant challenge. And you want to check in 20 minutes prior to your IC time. There's usually the IC time, the IC area is generally away from the rest of the tournament. So I know in Denver, it's on the third floor of George Washington. I know that in Boulder, it's down a whole different hallway. I know in Alameda High School, it's also down a way different hallway than any other challenge. So you're going to go there and leave your parents behind. So parents cannot go into the IC space at all. Just your team manager can go and the team. So they're going to get in there and they're going to see a desk and they're going to say, "Hey, we're the team from Thunder Ridge," and they're going to check in. And sometime, most likely, what's going to happen is that at that time, an instant challenge oath will be administered to the team. And the teenagers that usually do that have a lot of fun with it and really enjoy playing with your kids. And they're going to basically say, "Hey, you can't talk about the instant challenge until global finals is over." So basically till June 1st. So the kids are going to promise that they're not going to talk about the instant challenge. Then what happens is they get escorted to a warm-up area. That may be an empty classroom. It may just be a hallway. At the state tournament, we just make you stay outside. And so you're at the warm up area, and this is a time for you to start focusing in your team. So get them to sort of huddle up, remind them, because there's no interference prior to instant challenge. So remind them about roles and responsibilities, about timekeepers, any of your last minute tips and tricks to remind them of. Go ahead and do that. And then maybe play a game or two that they can play sitting down, so that they can kind of get a little bit focused and get into their teamwork roles. All right, when your IC room is empty, another appraiser is going to come and escort you to the IC room. And your room will generally have at least 2 other adults in it, or it may have 3. The team gets to decide whether the team manager gets to go into the IC room or not. I always wanted to go in, and I told my team that I could assess them better if I was there. But sometimes they didn't let me in, and sometimes they did. So it's up to the team whether they let you in or not. And only one of you can go if there's 2. So the other team manager will be escorted to the chill out room while the team is performing. And you're going to go in, and there will be a table with the instant challenge taped to the table. and there will be supplies or not on that table depending on the challenge. And your team should, circle the table, and then the team, and they should say hello and thank you to the appraisers that are in the room. I mean, be friendly, and the appraisers should be friendly back. And then the reader is going to read you the challenge, and remember that your team cannot ask questions until after time starts. And then they're going to do their instant challenge. They are allowed to have a non-beeping timing device with them, but other than that, cell phones, um, cell phones, and everything should be left, all turned off and all in a bag. Um, they just don't need to be. The kids do not need to have a cell phone with them. So the team manager's role in the IC room is to sit on their hands and look at their lap. You don't want to do anything inadvertent that may look like you're signaling or giving hints or time things. So in order, I am quite a I use my face a lot when I talk or when I react to things. So I would just look at my lap and sit on my hands, and that way I knew that I wasn't giving anything away. Um, and then you'll all go to the chill out room. And as I said, you can only have one team manager in the team manager in the room. So, that's a chance for you to go find your other team manager. And then in the chill out area, teams are allowed to talk about their challenge. They can tell their team managers exactly what happened. They can debrief. They can talk about what has gone well, what didn't go well. And then after they leave the chill out room, they can no longer talk about it. Now, you can always create your own chill out room. So if it's just you, your co-team manager, and your team, and no one else is around, you guys can talk about that IC again. But they can't tell their parents and they can't tell other teams. So there you go. That's the instant challenge. Does anyone have any questions on instant challenge? Oops. Okay, so there is a question. Can the IC non-beeping timing device be a cell phone? It can be if everything is turned off. Um, it's allowed, but if anybody has just a watch with a second hand, it is so much better. But they can definitely have that if they're in airplane mode. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So DI tournaments are very busy places. This week, Jeffco has about 80 teams competing. Denver has about 150. So if someone comes up and says, I'm Johnny's grandmother and I'm here to watch Johnny perform, we're not going to be able to help them. So please make a sheet of paper to hand out to your parents that say your team's name, your team's school, your team's challenge, and the challenge time. That way they'll get to where they need to be. Make sure that you remember that supporters may not view the IC performance. All right. So approximately an hour to an hour and a half after your team has done their central challenge, they can go back to their central challenge room. There will be a sign near the door that says if your scores are ready or not. Okay? So if your scores are ready, you want to find the head appraiser. When you are looking for the head appraiser, they will generally be walking around with a clipboard in an official shirt that's not it's not going to be the white t-shirt. It's usually something, a Denver t-shirt, or it might be a black Colorado DI t-shirt, polo shirt. It's going to look a little bit more official. Or you can just ask the prep area appraiser, hey, I'd like to speak to the head appraiser. You may need to wait till the challenge performance finishes. You may need to wait while another team is talking to that head appraiser. So But once you get to meet the head appraiser, you're going to get a score sheet. And the score sheet is your raw scores. So you are scored. Everybody is scored on a on. Hold on, let me. Ooh, I didn't realize that was there. Let me see if I can find one. Score tracker, appraiser master. So this is sort of what it looks like, but not really. So yeah, that's not really what it looks like. Sorry. And you can't get these. These are just things that I can get. Appraiser. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're going to get these scores, and it's going to say you've received a score of 20, let's say, on an element that's worth 30 points. And it's going to say, appraiser 1 gave you 15, appraiser 2 gave you 25, and appraiser 3 gave you 20. And so your score is actually the average of those. So you average 15, 20, and 25, and you get 20. And let's say it was worth 30 points. Okay. That score means nothing, to be quite honest with you. The scores are all scaled later in the competition. So if you receive half the points. So let's say something is worth 30 points and your team has received 15 points. That is a good score. 15 out of 30 means that you have done what was expected. It is a completion of the challenge with average amount of creativity. So 50% of the score isn't an F like you would think if you were doing grade based, 50%. Oh my gosh, I only got 50%. That's terrible. No, 50% is basically your team did what was expected. Anything over 50% becomes better. So if you've received 25 out of 30 points on one element, that element was probably very, very good. If you've received 28 out of 30, that element was probably exceptional. Um, what, okay, so those are the subjective scores, the ones that are ranged out to 30, like, what do I merit the technical design? What about the overall creativity of the story? Those are subjective scores. And you're going to see a range of scoring from your appraisers. Like I said, one might be 15, one might be 20, one might be 25. That's okay. Because basically, because there's three appraisers appraising each element, those appraisers sort of either they have their own standard that they do good, better, and best with all day. So one appraiser might only score 0 to 25 or 0 to 20, and one person might score only 15 and higher, but they're sort of ranking the same. So it all averages out to be even. So I always get questions after tournaments about why this appraiser only scored an 8 when everybody else scored it a 15. Well, that might be an appraiser, that may be an alumni, it may be another team manager. Some of those people tend to grade on a tougher scale. So, okay. So you have the subjective scores that are different. And then you have your objective scores. How many containers did you move? Did you include this element or not? How much weight did your structure hold? Those scores should be the same for all appraisers. So if it's like you did it or you didn't, all the scores should be the same. If it's, we opened, I don't know, 4 containers, it should say 4 containers. That's objective. Okay. So you're going to get these raw scores, and the highest score of the raw scores becomes the highest score at the end of the day. So let's say that your team got 180 out of 240 points on its central challenge, but nobody outscored you all day, your score will be scaled to 240 and all the subsequent teams will be scaled up that same percentage. So when you receive your raw scores, and this is really something to really understand, especially when you're talking to your team about it, when you've received your raw scores, it doesn't account your instant challenge performance number one, and it doesn't tell you the whole range of scores for the day. So if you are over 50%, that you're, that's better. If you're under 50%, that's sort of, I wouldn't set your expectations high for the award ceremony. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. Let me think what I wanted to say about that. Your team will also get back from the head appraiser a sheet of sticky notes. And my teams always love their sticky notes the best. These are comments made by your appraisers that highlight non-scoring elements. For example, they might just say, "Hey, it looks like you're having fun in there," or "Really love this costume," or "Oh, I thought you guys were so funny." So they're going to write special comments to your students, and those are really great. So no matter what team you are, no matter if you're first, second, or last, you're going to receive sticky notes, and those sticky notes are always going to be positive. You have the opportunity, if you are not happy with something that happened during the tournament, to have what is called a dialogue. You can dialogue anything that you have received a deduction for, or any objective points. You cannot dialogue subjective scoring. But if you have a question about how you scored, please talk to your head appraiser. And your head appraiser will hopefully explain what happened and fix the problem or make it understood that so that you understand the problem and your team does. If your team still feels like they were appraised inappropriately, let's say they got a deduction for team manager interference and they really don't feel like they deserve it, they can do a dialogue and they can go and talk to tournament officials and the team can explain. No, our team manager didn't help, but we misunderstood the question or whatever happened. So I just want you to know that process is in the rules of the road, and so if that happens to happen to you, where something goes a bit amiss, maybe all the containers weren't counted appropriately or something happened. This is very rare that something really does happen, but you can feel free to do a dialogue and ask your head appraiser to help you with that. Okay. Okay, apparently I'm really garbled. I can't hear that I am, so I'm sorry. There's nothing I can really do about it either. But we're just about done. Let me see. Hold on a second. All right. Can you guys hear me now? Lots of people are having sound issues. I'm so sorry. If it's a go to meeting issue, I hope you can hear me now. Can you guys hear okay? Let me know. Okay. All right, it's all right. Anyway, the last thing to say is that every regional team, every regional event has an award ceremony. Go to the award ceremony. They are fun and they're a celebration. There's usually dancing and a DJ, and your kids should just enjoy that they've accomplished an amazing thing and had a wonderful day. So please go, even if you don't think you're going to win. Support your other teams and just have fun. Okay. The last thing I want to say that if you go to the state tournament, you need to register your team quickly. there's a ton of paperwork you need to read, and then you can review your scores for improvement areas. Okay, that's all I have to say. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys feel better about your tournaments coming up. If you are in improv or technical, you should go back and read your tournament procedures as well. I didn't go over challenge specific information, but you should probably do that. Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to let you back to your families and to homework and to dinner, whatever you're doing. Everybody should have a nice night, and I can't wait to see your teams perform, and make sure you give them a big hug and really appreciate what they've been doing. And I appreciate everything you do. Thank you very much for being team managers. Good night.